for Dr. J.
So let me go.
Oh, the sun. I fucking hate the sun. Sorry.
And there's the beginning of it. Oh, the sun. I fucking hate the sun. All right.
I do.
Hotspot this thing.
It's so sunny.
It does its job. How dare it? Why would it want to give forth light? Who said it had to break down a bunch of hydrogen atoms?
It's obnoxious.
Son of a bitch.
Son of a bitch.
No, get it?
Hola, oulala, madame.
All right.
C'est ça?
All right, let's see here.
C'est vrai? Vraiment? Enfin.
Okay.
Oh, oui donc alors.
No, you'll have a very... What is this? Is this it? No, I don't want that. I want that.
She's currently in exams this week, so she's having a hoot.
Oh. Well. At Unkug?
Yeah, she's all online though. She hates it.
Sign into, I don't want that. Papers, that's what I wanted. Okay.
She may not get summa.
She might what?
Might not get summa cum laude.
Oh no. You mean she might graduate with a regular BA?
No, she'll get magna.
Heaven forbid.
She'll get magna cum laude. It's that whole, she was a big fish in a small pond, and now there she is. She's just not realizing that university professors couldn't care less if you live or die.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
We spoil them.
Yes, we do. You know why? Because we care, Jason.
That's why I try not to care, because I figure I'm preparing them for the world. That's why I do that whole, I'm sure someone thinks you're a beautiful and unique snowflake, but not me. They laugh. That nervous laugh. Like, oh my God, is he serious? That one.
I get that when I walk in and I tell them, are you nervous? Yeah. Yeah, so am I. I've never passed this exam before.
Of course, you've never taken this exam.
No, I know. And the look on their face like, oh.
Welcome to hell.
Or always the one that really gets them is when they start, you see them start squirming and they start complaining a little bit. I'm like, oh, don't worry. It's much worse than you think. And they're like, oh.
Poor kids.
Mm-hmm. We went over the midterm exam today, and this one student said, if you love us, you'll give us a study guide. I'm like, I've already given you a study guide. It's called the reading list.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. She was like, oh. I said, well, if you really loved it, you give us a copy of the exam. And I'm like, yeah, no. I said, I can give you a copy of the American Lit 2 exam, but then you might take that class. I should have told him, I'll give you a copy of Jason Johnson's American Lit 1 exam.
Their heads would explode.
I know.
What's all these quotes? Where do they come from?
Well, no, I don't. I've got the who wrote me, and I'm doing quotes. I'm like, you're going to have to tell me who wrote me.
My exam scares them, and there's no reason for it. If you've done the reading, you just come to class, you take notes.
Yeah.
You're fine. Same with yours. Just be there.
Just be there. It's not that hard. Most of the exam is your opinion. Because the short answers are designed to see if you actually did pay attention to the reading, but it's based on an opinion that you have about the reading. And then the essays, those are opinion. The only real hard part that
quotes.
they find are the quotes, and that's because I don't give them an author bank.
Nope, I don't either. And see, that's the problem with mine is they're all quotes.
Yeah.
And maybe one or two terms.
Right.
And what they don't know is today I wrote down 3 of the quotes that are going to be on the exam. Just to fuck with him. Like, there's no way he did that. Oh, yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
Do you ever use quotes you talk about in class?
No.
Is that all you do?
No.
Okay, good.
No, because I tell them, like, there's portions going to come from what I've been talking about. Portions going to be from what I haven't been talking about, because they read more than what we discuss.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, we're on? Okay.
Oh, we've been on.
And that whole, I hate the sun.
Yeah. From there on. Yeah.
So yeah, magna cum laude. Instead of summa.
Breaks my heart.
She's got a brain. But she is burnt out.
Yeah.
Senioritis.
So. Yeah,
all right.
How much is that going to do for her? Because I still got into grad school and I didn't have that shit.
I don't think she wants to go to grad school. She wants to be an advisor right now over at Student Success Center, which is what she's doing part-time. Mm-hmm. But you know that already.
Yeah.
Anyway, podcast.
Yeah. All right, so for the audience, just let them know, over the weekend, the Grievance Studies Affair, which was James Lindsay, Helen Pluckrose, and Peter Boghossian.
It took me 2 months to remember that guy's name.
Boghossian. Wrote a bunch of fake journal articles to expose the the gender studies journals for malpractice, and they got 7 accepted, 1 published, or 2 published. We're going to reference one of the ones that was published. The 2 that were published is one about the homosexual tendencies in dogs in dog parks.
But only in dog parks. They have no such tendencies when they leave the dog park.
Yeah. And
how did it get published?
And a feminist, because they just didn't realize they were being hosed. And if you actually look at the essay, they have got citations all over the place.
Are any of them real?
No, they're real. They're quoting critical race theorists. Yeah, gender theory. They're quoting like all the big ones. It's hilarious. We'll read a couple of excerpts. And then the other one that got published was the one where they took a chapter of Mein Kampf and rewrote it, replacing all the gender pronouns with her, and all the anti-Semitic language with anti-masculine language.
And they got away with it?
Yeah, it was going to be published.
Like a fucking champion.
Like a fucking champion. But 5 others had been accepted and were going to be published.
Until they came out.
When it came out.
Did they reveal it themselves?
Okay, so the story is that a professor caught wind of all this, and she got a hold of a couple of them. Yeah. And took a look at them and alerted the Wall Street Journal. And no, it wasn't a professor, it was another journalist. She started looking into the fake name that they had given for the dog park one, and started like rooting around and doing her job, and alerted the Wall Street Journal, and the Wall Street Journal contacted them through the fake name. And then as soon as they did, and they've said that as soon as someone figured it out, they were going to come clean. They weren't going to try and hide it. And so as soon as the Wall Street Journal contacted, they said the gig is up, right? And so they promised the Wall Street Journal that they could run the story before they would go public with it. And the day that the Wall Street Journal published the story, they went public.
And these weren't small journals they were publishing in either.
No, these were like, well, okay, so the one that the dog park one got into is like the leading journal in feminist geography studies. like the world #1. And the thing is, this thing didn't just get accepted and published. They gave it an award because it was like the 20th anniversary of the journal. And so they wanted to award like the best articles throughout the history of the magazine or the journal. And they gave it one of those awards. This was an award-winning journal article.
Oh, I bet they were pissed.
Oh, yes.
See, had they handled it correctly, which they didn't, I'll tell you how I would have handled it in a few minutes.
Anyway.
Because I've thought about this one a lot.
That is so funny. All right, so the point of the podcast today is not to talk about the gender studies hoax. It's to talk about peer review, the peer review process and peer review journals.
Peer review.
Yeah, peer review.
And scare quotes.
And the reason why I bring this up, there was an article posted to Lindsay's New Discourses website.
Right.
And I got thinking about that, and then thinking about that it was the anniversary, and I thought, you know what, we ought to talk about peer reviews. Yeah. So I'm just going to read you a couple of excerpts from this essay.
Which one is this one?
This is from New Discourses. This is the one. This is legit. Okay, but he's talking about the peer review process. This is a tenured professor who wrote this for Lindsay for his website. He says, after 4 agonizing months of waiting for a decision, it arrived, the decision. The first page of the mailing delivered the disappointment. The editor explained that while one peer reader recommended revision and eventual publication, the other recommended rejection. As the tiebreaker, the editor sided with the unfavorable reviewers, so he got rejected. But he had some compliments for the manuscript and encouraged me to read the reports of the reviewers as I continued working on the essay. Next, I read the report of the first reader, who made many constructive recommendations for how to improve the essay. I moved that page to reveal the report of the second reader. I saw a sheet that was completely blank except for a few words at the very top. Squinting, I read, "Much ado about nothing." I guess that reviewer was trying to wound me. Why else would a reader be so dismissive of something a peer had worked so hard on? If I was a different sort of person, that curt note might have convinced me never to send out any of my work again, but the only thing that came to mind was, "I'll show him." 4 years later, that essay was published in the top-tier Journal of Modern Literature, but my first attempt to publish scholarship permanently darkened my mood regarding the process of peer review. And then he goes on to talk about a second essay that he wrote. Well, there's several different. We're going to hit a couple. The editors and staff journals achieve this form of stealth censorship in a variety of ways. In the case of an essay I wrote on the crass ways that college teachers characterize whiteness in the classroom, I couldn't get the editor of a major journal to concede that she had, in fact, received my submission. I have had manuscripts rejected for being too long by journals. They explicitly state they have no limits pertaining to the length of submissions. In a co-authored rhetorical analysis that made a soft criticism of speech by then President Obama, a colleague and I sent that we thought was very strong manuscript to a dozen American journals, only to be rejected by each one for different reasons each time. When we finally decided to send the essay to a journal outside the United States, manuscript was accepted without revision on the first try. All right, and then let's see. All right, so this is the big one. 50 years ago, a member of my family left town, changed his name, and severed all connections to his previous life. Everyone finally assumed he was dead. But about 2 years ago, my uncle located him. As a rhetorician who conducts research on personal information or personal transformation, I was eager to talk to this person about how he had fashioned a new identity. These planned disappearances and assumed identities have been the focus of my research this year after working all summer to prepare a new essay on the topic. I sent it to Rhetoric Society Quarterly in late August. I have published research in RSQ in the past, and I have also served as peer reviewer for the journal. Thus, I was surprised when a few days after submission, the editor wrote to inform me that she would not send the essay out for peer review.
Whoa.
While she expressed repeatedly that the research was very interesting, she insisted that it was not ready for publication. Of course, determining the readiness of research for publication is the very purpose of peer review process. If the work was of inferior quality, the peer reviewers would have relayed that information to the editor. I pride myself on submitting clean, well-prepared manuscripts, so I was curious what about the essay was so poorly done that it received a desk rejection from the editor. Rhetoric Society Quarterly is published by Taylor & Francis, which oversees an array of other academic journals. At their website, I found that there are 2 reasons an editor might offer a desk rejection. Because a submission is outside the purview of the journal's disciplinary focus, or because the manuscript does not conform to the instructions for the authors on the journal's website that detail formal and stylistic requirements for manuscripts. As a rhetorician who has previously published in RSQ, I know that the work I submitted was topically well suited for the journal, a fact validated by Dr. Rhodes' repeated assertion that the work was interesting. My essay also conformed to all the instructions for authors. I consulted RSQ's webpage before submission to make sure of that. Dr. Rhodes did mention 2 things about the essay that motivated her unilateral decision to reject. First, I didn't cite what she viewed as relevant research from the field of medicine. Secondly, she said she found one sentence troubling. The sentence in question made passing reference to my comparison of Jenner and Dolezal in my book. It is important to note that in order to ensure a blind review, I referred to my earlier work in the third person. In a further effort to conceal my authorship from peer reviewers, I explicitly framed my essay as a corrective to a central claim in my book, which to a reviewer would read like a criticism of my own work. To the credit of Dr. Rhodes, after some pressing from me, she admitted that her decision to reject was not made on the grounds allowable by Taylor & Francis. She said that she wouldn't publish any work that was racist or transphobic, even in passing.
But was it racist or transphobic? Because I can get not wanting to publish something that's openly racist. Or even in passing.
Right.
Because that doesn't have a place in academic.
So the argument that he's making, or the argument that he's engaging with, is looking at how people can rhetorically engage in changing their personalities and changing their identity.
Yes.
And he uses Bruce Jenner and another person that is aligned with Bruce Jenner to argue how they engaged in rhetoric by changing their identity.
So I don't think that's at all insulting or discriminatory. That's just fascinating. I like that. That's a pity. But they assumed that.
Yep. So she rejected it upon submission instead of passing it on to peer review.
I mean, does he actually at any point indicate that trans people are horrible human beings?
No.
He's just saying they engage in certain rhetorical strategies.
Yeah. Change their identity.
How is...
Because apparently it challenges some kind or some form of gender theory.
Nor is he suggesting that this is a choice.
Yeah.
He's just saying they changed their rhetoric to indicate a change.
Yeah.
Why is that a problem? I don't understand. No, I mean, I'm not trying to play the naive card. I just don't get it.
Yeah, you'd have to read the entire article to really fully understand the section he's talking about. But it's basically, he's studying how they rhetorically engaged in changing their identity and what happened because of that. That's what he's looking at.
But he's not anti-trans or anything like that. No. But they assumed he was? Because why?
Because he's talking about it.
But that's what we're supposed to do. He's not saying...
that's not what we're supposed to do. That's the problem.
But he's not criticizing.
It doesn't matter.
It's a part of the... This seems like something that a theorist would be really attracted to. that our rhetorical engagement changes things.
Yeah.
That rhetoric has an impact, a real impact in the world. I'm not sure I see why that's bad, because, I mean, I perform my disability in interesting ways all the time. Very often with the way I speak and the way I carry myself.
And what's interesting is someone outside of you could sit down using rhetorical strategies and figure out why you do the things you do.
Yes.
That's called sociology.
Well, it is
psychology.
It is. Well, and it's rhetoric.
But once you cross into that area where you're discussing, if you're not trans, you're not supposed to talk about it.
You think that's why?
That's why.
And does he state that he thinks that's why?
He doesn't state that, but that's what he alludes to. I mean, it's just, in effect, I have been blackballed by the flagship journal in my field because my work deviates from the pieties of the activist left. This is ironic given that in describing her version for RSQ when she assumed the position of editor, Dr. Rhodes wrote that the journal would publish more counterpoints. I was recently promoted to full professor, so I have little to lose from the censoring of my research. But this is not an isolated incident. Graduate students and junior faculty are especially vulnerable to these tactics.
But he's not being critical.
He's just diagnosing.
Which is healthy.
Yeah.
He's just saying this is how we work.
Yeah.
That there are a whole host of rhetorical strategies that go along with us constructing our own identities.
Yep.
Why is that a problem? Unless in the middle of the paper he says, oh, by the way, trans people suck.
Yeah, he doesn't.
And I would get that.
He doesn't do that. It's the fact that he brought up Bruce Jenner. In the third person.
I wonder if Bruce Jenner would have a problem with that.
I don't know.
Or Caitlyn Jenner.
Does it matter?
Yeah.
Does it really fucking matter?
Well,
because the thing is like, somebody said this in a podcast a couple weeks ago. I think it was a Sam Harris podcast. Even if you are a part of that group, if you disagree, then they say you are betraying that group. So like if you said that, let's say that all of a sudden they started doing these really insane pushes for visual disabilities, and they start telling everybody that, if you can see well, you're oppressing the blind. And here you are, somebody who's visually impaired, you say, now wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. They would say, you're betraying your own kind. You don't have a voice in this now because you have betrayed your own kind. That's what they do. Nice. So even if Jenner said, no, I have no problem with this, they would say, then you're betraying your own kind.
So the peer review part is what we were concerned about.
Yeah, the peer review. But that gives you an idea of what we're looking at when it comes to peer review journals now. They're becoming very, very... They're engaging in very extreme police tactics to rid any idea that does not agree with critical theory.
It's homogenizing.
Yeah.
It's boring.
And you're not getting another voice. But the thing is, as we were talking on the way up here, this has been going on since I was in grad school in 2010.
Yeah, it's been going on for a while. I started grad school earlier than you in 98, and it was happening then too. And I remember, and I may have said this before, but my faculty committee for my thesis and my dissertation were in their 70s. They were all old school. And I told one of my professors, whom I still love, she's wonderful, but she's a new historicist. I told her who I was studying with, and she said they're out of step.
Yeah.
With what's going on right now. And I'm thinking, well, then so am I. And at that moment, I realized it's going to be very hard for me to get a job at a university because I don't write the way I'm supposed to write.
Yeah.
Which isn't surprising that I sent out articles and no one wanted them because they're not in step with literary theory.
Yeah.
or social theory or whatever theory is being pushed or advocated. I think they're all kind of the same now.
Yeah.
And we talked about the death of theory, but I don't think it's dead. It's in the streets. But the problem you're talking about is the peer review process. And the term you used earlier today, do you remember what you said?
What?
Is an echo chamber.
It is. That's all it is.
Because now they're talking to each other and not to anybody else.
Yep.
One of the reasons I got into the university as much as I did and got excited about it is because I would talk to people who openly and vociferously disagreed with me. And I had a lot of fun arguing with them.
Uh-huh.
Are those days gone?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's all serious now.
Well, serious is one thing, but...
Again, look for it and you'll find it. If you answer the question beforehand, you will always find the answer.
Well, and you're talking about confirmation bias.
Yeah, but the journals are building on that now.
Yeah.
That's what they're publishing.
I wouldn't have a problem with them publishing that so long as they also published articles that would debate with them.
Yeah.
And have an honest-to-God dialogue and say, let's actually think this one through to its natural conclusion rather than shutting off new avenues of inquiry.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that's where we've gone. Yeah, that's dangerous. That's really scary. And this is nothing new. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
You may want to explain how peer review process is supposed to work.
Well, you're supposed to submit an article. You get a list of guidelines from the journal. You submit the article. The article then, the editor takes the journal or the article, sends it out to, there's supposed to be, I was surprised that it was only 2 in that first example, but there's supposed to be like, 5 or 6?
It depends. Sometimes it's only 3 or 4.
I know that one, there's a couple that, the one that I peer reviewed for DePolo, there was like 4 of us, I think.
You peer reviewed?
Yeah.
Look at you.
I peer reviewed twice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I've done it a couple times.
The most fun is reviewing textbooks.
Never done that.
I've done that a lot. I have a lot of fun with that. It's always fun.
Although I've been on the editorial board before, and we never had these kind of crazy-ass rules where we're only going to accept one type of paper.
Right.
We were very open.
Yeah. No, so anyway, so then it goes to peer review, and what the peer reviewers do are, you get a list of questions. You have to answer the questions. These are not like yes or no questions. These are like, you have to actually, like the 2 that I've done, the one for DePolo, I gave some serious feedback. The other one that I did was for a very, very, very small journal. It's for a guy that I went to grad school with. And so there was, and even the questions, it was only like 12 questions, I think. And the questions were very wide open, right? Like, you can put anything down for this answer. You know, it's like, why, yes, blue and yellow make green. Absolutely. And here's how I know, because I took a blue crayon. You could answer that and they'd be like, oh, yeah, sure. Because there are journals out there like that. It's like they're going through the motions. But all they're trying to do is get readership. You know, so... But, so there's different levels of politics, even in the journals. But anyway, so you get these list questions, you have to answer like really thoroughly. And then at the end, you have your critique, and you have to really dig into this article. And you do have, depending on the journal, some journals will ask, I've never done this before, but I know that there's been colleagues or people that I've known, from other places that DePolo is one of them, where they actually had to check the research. Like that was they had to go through and check the citations.
God.
To make
were
sure
they
that
accurate?
they were legit. Yeah. He said they missed one, but he said it was a website problem. It wasn't their problem. Like it was there, it's just they fucked up like 1 or 2 letters or whatever in it.
In the URL.
Yeah. So, but yeah, DePolo told me he's done that a few times where they had to actually go through and check the sources.
That's hideous.
Yeah, that's just mean.
That's why you
But
say
that's
no
like
to being a peer.
But see, that's the upper scale journals, you know? The bigger ones. Like, I can see American Lit making peer reviewers do that.
Oh, that's hideous.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, that's the process. And then they kick it back and they say whether they would recommend it or not. And if it's overwhelming, then the editor publishes it. If it's not, if there are too many problems, then the editor kicks it back to the author. The author fixes it, or sends it back in.
Or they say this is irredeemably bad and
Yeah.
you can't ever publish here again.
So just go jump off a cliff and leave us alone.
The world was better before you were in it.
Yeah. Most of the time, they will ask for, they will give you the option for resubmission if you choose. So, but then you go right back through the process. I mean, some of the papers that end up in these journals go through years of process.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah.
And that's why getting tenure is so bad, because you have 6 years.
Yeah. You gotta get it done fast.
I've been lucky in that I've had turnaround time be very quick for journal articles.
Yeah.
Usually 6 months.
So anyway, so that's the process.
Not anymore.
No.
Not anymore. Now the process is,
Political.
it's all, and this is what I had said over lunch. That I feel like I have to keep waving my political credentials around so people believe what I say. But I'm a leftist, but I'm deeply disturbed by the fact that the left has gotten to a point where they no longer in academia, okay?
Yeah.
In academia, is no longer allowing for debate. And it's become the entire institution. The entire institution is on the left. What about the people on the right? Are you telling me that literary critics on the right don't have something to contribute that's worth reading? That's a bold statement.
That is.
And extraordinarily dangerous. Some of my best friends are conservatives. I've known conservative literary critics who are brilliant, and we are systematically shutting them out. Or centrists, for that matter.
All right, you ready for this?
Yeah.
Human reactions to rape culture and queer performativity at urban dog parks in Portland, Oregon, by Helen Wilson. Portland Ungendering Research Initiative. Portland, Oregon, USA.
Oh dear.
Abstract.
Is that all we're reading of this one?
We're going to read a couple places. This is the abstract. This article addresses questions in human geography and the geographies of sexuality by drawing upon 1 year of embedded observations of dogs and their human companions at 3 public dog parks in Portland, Oregon. The purpose of this research is to uncover emerging themes in human and canine interactive behavioral patterns in urban dog parks, to better understand human amoral decision-making in public spaces and uncover bias and emergent assumptions around gender, race, and sexuality. Specifically, and in order of priority, I examined the following questions. How do human companions manage, contribute, and respond to violence in dogs? Number 2, what issues surround queer performativity and human reaction to homosexual sex between and among dogs? And 3, do dogs suffer oppression based on perceived gender? Perceived gender. Because dogs perceive their gender. It concludes by applying black feminist criminology categories through which my observations can be understood, and by inferring from lessons relevant to human and dog interactions to suggest practical applications that disrupts hegemonic masculinities and improves access to emancipatory spaces.
It's word vomit.
I know.
I mean, I understand what they're saying.
Here's the thing. This goes back to the Judy Blume episode that we did last week.
Judy Blume. How long have you been working on that one?
Oh, I've been waiting for that one all week. the terminology that you have to engage with for peer review journals. I mean, everything in this paragraph can be said in one sentence.
Yeah.
I watched a bunch of dogs, and my paper is going to be about what happened when I watched those dogs. It's just, that's it. But instead you get all this. But what's interesting is going back to what we'd said before about, and we've said this several times, if you set the conclusion before you start searching, then you're going to find the conclusion. They set the conclusion before even for the reader, they tell the reader exactly what the conclusion is going to be without the reader getting to that.
Yeah.
That's how the journals want it.
Well, but if you already know the theory, which Pluckrose and Lindsay and Bogosian do, then you already know how it's going to end anyway, because the theory is set.
Yeah.
And it's been set for years. And so now all you're doing is just picking a different example to prove your pet theory, which is about as unscientific as you can get.
Yep. So I want to read that sentence again. The purpose of this research is to uncover emerging themes in human and canine interactive behavioral patterns in urban dog parks to better understand human amoral decision-making in public spaces and uncover bias and emergent assumptions upon gender, race, and sexuality. They're assuming that it's already there.
Yes, they are.
Which you have to do for gender studies. You have to assume that it's there and you just have to find it. But what if it's not there? Then what you find is, and that's the point of this is the hoax. This is the biggest hoax paper, right? The point of this paper is twofold: to show the world that the peer review process is broken.
It is.
But at the same time, it's a critique on the actual critical race theory, or the mechanics of the theory itself, and how it doesn't work. It's not real. This doesn't work.
No, and it's not the other. Okay, so I tend to stick with literature just because it's my field. The other problem with literary theory or theory in general is it's not surprising anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas when I read a new author who's written a great work of literature, I am completely shocked at what I just read.
Right.
And I can't talk about it for a while. Whereas if I had a pet theory, I could understand it just like that.
Right.
All I got to do is plug in the right words. I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, it's what's out there. And you could make the claim that we've been there before.
Yeah.
I'm sure that when Derrida was starting out, there were journals that looked at him like, nope, no.
Foucault.
Yeah. But now we're doing it again. And the ones who were rejected before are rejecting others.
Yep.
And that's extraordinarily risky. It's cultish. This is what I said earlier. It's cultish. It's exclusionary. Unless you know all the right buzzwords and are willing to deploy them in the right way, you're not welcome.
In the example of the urban dog park, it is natural to see how much a moral inconsistency compares against McCritic's concept of hegemonic presence of the white male subject as an ethical standard against which other individuals, races, and dogs are to be compared. As such, human relationships with both human animal spaces and animals themselves providing a richly revealing double sight of morality and amorality. This forms an amoral paradox within human geography and within animaling, in which humans ignore the moral valences of public spaces and yet feel free to express deeply held moral beliefs and assumptions through their perceptions of and interactions with animals who are presented as bearing full responsibility for them and yet understood not to be responsible.
What?
Okay. What he's saying there.
Who wrote this one? Was this Lindsay?
This is Lindsay.
Okay.
Helen Pluckrose had a little bit to do with it, but he wrote the majority of it. What Lindsay is saying here is that human beings are enforcing human understanding onto the dogs in the dog park, and thus they're creating social structures among the dogs, whether the dogs realize that it's happening or not.
Is there blood coming out of my ear?
It's coming out of your eyeball.
I think I might be having an aneurysm. This is what a stroke feels like.
I remember, this is the hoax paper that they submitted and got an award for. Which means there are scholars out there that believe this.
But they're using the right words.
They are.
They're using the right
Human
words.
beings construct these lives for these dogs, and the dogs have no freedom. The dogs can't get out of it. They're being oppressed.
They're just dogs.
Through this form of animaling.
Oh, yeah. They really like the neologisms, too.
All right, let me see here. I think it was on page 6.
Yeah, okay. You know, Brian, this is why I drink. This
All right,
thing,
you
this
ready?
here.
All right. During these observational sessions, I gave particular scrutiny to 2 space-defining categories of amorality salient behavior. Human companion behavior as it related to dogs and canine actions. The following fall into the former, moral behavior, category. How human companions engaged, ignored, or broke up dog fights, aggression between or among other dogs, and dog humping or rapes, collection of dog droppings, use of leashes, humans raising their voices subjectively determined, use of shock collars, and general human and dog interactions, especially ways in which gender, apparent gender, or gendering interacted within the spaces. The following fall into the latter category of amoral canine behavior: penetrative acts among dogs, humping without penetration, dog fights, and urinating and defecating in unauthorized areas. For example, on a human's leg or another dog's head or body, or in the communal water bowl. I ignored nonviolent dog interactions that elicited reactions and punishments from owners, such as canine Copography,
I guess.
because while they remain relevant to those lessons derivable from observing human-dog interactions within animal spaces that reveal themes of material semiotic performativity of human-animal relationships, they fall outside the purview of this investigation. Oh my God.
How did he do this?
I don't
How did he write this?
They probably... Okay, so when the thing started, they sent out several pieces and they got rejected immediately. And they thought, okay, we got to actually, tighten this up. And so I'm sure they sat there. Now, you remember, you're dealing with 3 PhDs, right? One of them is a feminist. One of them is a psychologist. One of them is a mathematician. They can write some bullshit.
Bogosian's a psychologist?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He's a professor of psychology.
For now.
And she is she's a feminist.
Is she a professor too?
Feminology. I think so.
Not for long. They have put themselves...
Well, she's in Britain.
Yeah, but it's over there too. I mean,
Now, Lindsay's been out of the game for 10 years
he
now.
left willingly.
He left, yep. He left when he realized the writing's on the wall. This is coming. Here's the thing. He saw it when it happened to the New Atheism movement, which is how he met Bogosian. Because Bogosian was part of the New Atheists. And when the entire affair over our guy, what's his name?
Dawkins.
Huh?
Richard Dawkins?
Dawkins, yeah. When that whole affair happened, that's when James Lindsay said, "Oh no, I'm done."
Because when you go after Dawkins, He said, who could go after Dawkins? I mean, he's wrong, but he's a sweet guy.
You know how the whole thing started?
No.
I read about this in an article about Gamergate because they were talking about this. They said, this Gamergate came on the heels of the New Atheist thing. And what had happened was there had been this big conference.
Gamergate.
I'll tell you about Gamergate in a minute. There had been this really big conference for New Atheism, right? And this is when the movement was in full swing and it was full bore, right? And they, I put them over here.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyway, this is when it was in full bore, and so they had this conference, and one of the female speakers got on an elevator, and while she was on the elevator, another one of the speakers asked her out for a cup of coffee. And it made her feel uncomfortable that he would ask her out for a cup of coffee. And so what she did was she went back to her hotel room and rallied the troops and got him canceled, got him kicked out of New Atheists. He was not allowed to come to any more of the conferences that they were going to have.
Because he asked her out.
Because he asked her. He didn't even ask her out. He asked her if she would like to get a cup of coffee. Dawkins commented on it, and that's when they went after Dawkins.
Dawkins is too big to be canceled, though. Good luck.
But it was so much stress that it gave him a stroke.
Dawkins should have done what someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson would. Just got whatever.
Yeah, sure, whatever.
Gamergate.
Gamergate. Okay, so what happened with Gamergate? Starting with a really mundane bullshit thing.
Thank you.
So there was this developer, this game developer, who was dating a gamer journalist, right? And the gamer journalist was basically giving her free rides in his press. When come to find out, he's cheating with her on someone else who's part of the gaming community, and it became this whole sick love triangle thing, right?
Do you know the names of these people?
I can bring up an article and show you.
Because I think I know one of them.
Anyway, so it became this really sick love triangle thing, right? And what originally started as a campaign by a lot of gamers about the corruption of gaming journalism turned into an attempt to purge sexism from games. It made the leap because all these SJWs jumped on with the girl who was trying to make the game. Because what they were saying was because she's a female game developer, that's why everybody was piling onto her. Not because she was cheating with a guy who was giving her positive reviews in a prominent gaming magazine.
You need to look her up because I'm pretty sure I know her.
Okay, well,
I think she went to Ole Miss with me.
Okay, we'll look it up after the podcast.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what it started, but then it exploded. The thing about Gamergate, unlike the New Atheists who collapsed basically under the SJW purge, right? Because there's no more New Atheism. It's just gone. Like the whole movement fell apart because of this controversy. Gamergate was where the gamers pushed back, and they didn't allow the SJWs to crush the system. Was too big for SJWs to.
Well, the system is
battle.
Decentralized,
Yeah.
whereas something like the New Atheism had recognizable figures.
Yeah.
I understand concerns about game. We could have an entire episode about female body image in games, which is problematic.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, and that's real. I mean, that part.
That's real, but that's a whole different thing.
That's not what they're talking about.
That's not what they're talking about.
See, what they should be talking about is female body image in games.
What they were talking about was the corruption of journalists.
Yeah, I know.
In gaming journalism, and it got flipped because she was a female game developer. It got flipped to there being sexist against the girl developer.
Yeah.
And they took off with it. And of course, the thing about female body images in games, that was part of the ride. They started tacking that on. I don't have any problem with female images in games. Because if you want to talk about female images in games, then you have to talk about the male images because they're just as irrational and stupid.
And it's deeply problematic.
Yeah. But to be honest with you, I don't care. It's a video game. Yeah. That's the way I look at it. Okay, if they want to give Lara Croft big boobs and a little waist, give her big boobs and a little waist. I need to get to the end of the game. I don't give a shit what she looks like. Yeah. And there's a lot of people out there that think that way. And the fact that the SJWs have picked up on that's an old feminist argument, right?
So where does this take us?
Anyway, I brought up this part because they're mocking the quote-unquote research that is acceptable in peer-reviewed journals. So they're laying out their method. I want you to listen to all the methods again. This is what they're looking for. They break it down into 2 categories. One category, moral behavior, is how human companions engaged, ignored, or broke up dog fights or aggression between or among other dogs, and dog humping and rapes, collection of dog droppings, use of leashes, human raising their voices, use of shock collars, general human and dog interactions, especially ways in which gender, apparent gender, or gender interacted within the spaces. Okay? The following fall in the latter category of amoral canine behavior. So you have the amoral human behavior and the amoral canine behavior. Penetrative acts among dogs. That's an amoral act.
Amoral or immoral?
Amoral.
Okay.
Humping without penetration. So you have penetration and non-penetration. Dog fights. Urinating and defecating in unauthorized areas. For example, human's leg or another dog's head or body or on the communal water bowl. This is the method. They're laying out the method, right? What's sad about all of this is anybody with half a brain reading this is going to say, this can't be real. There is no way this can be real. In fact, Lindsay says that if you actually take the numbers that they throw in here, because they threw just random numbers in here, they would have to be watching 600 dogs a day for a year and a half. This dog park. There's no way they could have done this study.
Yeah. That's sad.
But you look at this and it's what were they thinking? And they bid it.
It's all
They gave it an award, Jason.
I'm telling you, it's the buzzwords. They say everything you're supposed to say. This is the other thing. It's formulaic. Once you learn the formula, you can say anything. As long as it adheres to the formula. Or coheres.
I want you to listen to this first paragraph of the results. And in the results, they have a subtitle called Navigating Dog Rape Culture. Averaging across my data, in my observational vicinity, there was approximately 1 dog rape incident every 60 minutes.
Why would they believe this? It just seems unbelievable. Nothing about this seems at all believable.
Oh, it's so weird.
Should show this article to one of our peers who's into this kind of thing. See what they say.
See if they even know it.
They may not. I mean, it's a community college, so most of us are not in the know about most recent scholarship. Unless it's good scholarship.
Trying to find the place where they... As noted above, human companions, especially human males, were more likely to intervene in a male dog's rape than a female dog's rape. So if it looked gay, the male dog owners were more inclined to break that up than if it didn't look gay. When dogs appeared to mutually participate in penetrative behavior, the numbers were similar. Oh my God, this is so good.
You think I'd be laughing more, but I think I'm just...
just sad.
I'm numb.
You're just...
Yes. I just want to talk about literature, man.
All right, the second section under results is titled Oppression of Dogs. Jason, I'm so glad you don't have a dog anymore. Otherwise, you would oppress her.
Oh, she's still my dog.
Gender, and this is the kicker. Gender had an apparent effect on the way a dog was treated. Male human companions referred to their male dogs as buddy, 97% more often than did female human companions of a male human who often just called the dog by the dog's name. Males also referred to female dogs as girl. For example, come here, girl, good girl. Atta girl.
Atta girl.
89% more frequently than did female human companions. There was not a single instant when I overheard the word bitch being used to refer to a female dog by a female human companion. But this word was heard a total of 108 times by male human companions.
Which is unbelievable.
Within this distribution, 22 males use this word more than once, and one male using it 11 times in a single hour on one afternoon.
Is it the end of the podcast yet?
Wait, it's broken. Over there.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Let's see here. I'm trying to find the paragraph where they talk about putting men on leashes.
Doing what?
They actually talk about putting leashes on men.
This is just too good to be true. I'm telling you, man, he used the right buzzwords. That's what this is. That's all this is. How you doing? This is about buzzwords.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's all it is. I can't find it.
That's okay. You can describe it.
Well, they talk about, okay, here we go. Metaphorically, we are now better positioned to answer the question, what specific and thematic lessons can be learned from dog parks that have the potential to further equity, diversity, inclusion, and peaceful coexistence and improve human-animal spaces? The answer is that the lessons from this study can be taken as heuristics that contribute to different ways of conceptualizing and interpreting masculinist hegemonies. For example, in dealing with dog rape, though all forms of human physical assault, including against non-human animals, are still violence against the vulnerable and cannot be condoned. The administration of an electric shock at the first signs of rape-like behavior within my observations always elicited a rapid cessation of an ongoing dog rape. By analogy, by publicly or otherwise openly and suddenly yelling, which was also effective at stopping dog rape incidents at males when they begin to make sexual advances on females and other males in certain non-homosexual contexts, and by making firm and repeated stands against rape culture in society, activism, media, human males may metaphorically be shocked out of regarding sexual violence, sexual harassment, and rape culture as normative, which may decrease rape rates and disrupt rape culture and emancipate rape condoning spaces. It is also not politically feasible to leash men, yank their leashes when they misbehave, or strike men with leashes or other objects in an attempt to help them desist from sexual aggression and other predatory behaviors. The reining in or leashing of men in society, however, can again be understood pragmatically on a metaphorical level with clear parallels to dog training pedagogical methodologies. So, what did we learn? Well, we can yell at men, and we can metaphorically leash them.
This paper took a turn.
What is the point of all this? What did we really learn? That peer review doesn't work anymore. It's broken.
No, well, and see, okay, so there's a deeper problem for why peer review doesn't work anymore. And it's departments, English departments, for example, are only hiring people like themselves.
Yeah.
And so what we have now are entire English departments who are theory-based, who only have a vested interest in hiring people who sound just like them.
Yeah.
And those same people become peer editors.
Yeah.
So this should not be at all surprising.
No.
It's where we are. I mean,
I'm sad.
Well, I am too. My sadness is that we don't have the kind of diversity that we should have in the academy.
Yeah.
We keep screaming about diversity, but we're closing off diverse opinions and differing opinions all the time. When in reality, if you want to win the argument, you have to have the argument to begin with, and they're not. They're just talking to each other.
Yeah.
So what's the fight about?
It's
if you're
an
just
echo
talking to each
chamber.
other? It is an echo chamber.
That's all it is. Like we said before, and like I told you earlier today, it's an echo chamber. And the methodology is, I'm going to write this. I'm going to cite these three people. Those three people are going to write something. They're going to cite my article and three other people. Those three people are going, you see, and what ends up happening is you have this closed off system.
Yes.
Where they're just quoting each other.
Yes.
And what's crazy, and I picked up on this, I started thinking about this a few years ago, but then I picked up on the fact that it has now crossed into the media. The media is now doing the same thing. They've closed the system off, and they're quoting each other, and that's verifiable, right? So the Post will quote the Guardian, who will quote the New York Times, who will quote the Post, and it goes in a circle. And they're not quoting anything. They're quoting the idea they had originally. Well, that doesn't say that. That's not evidence. And the journals were the ones that started doing this, again, at least 10 years ago, if not longer. And I meant to, maybe in the post edit, I'll bring it up, but I meant to bring that first page of my third chapter of my thesis, where I make the statement, although most research focuses on Quentin's love for Caddy as one of the reasons why he committed suicide.
Which is true.
My argument is that there's a different reason for the suicide and where the suicide took place.
Right.
Okay? And it is true, because it's all over the place.
Yeah. But.
And what I was told was, prove it. And this was during that meeting where he just basically destroyed me and told me that he didn't believe that I had done the research. And I said, well, I mean, I've got all these quotes in here. What are you talking about? It's like, you need footnotes. Oh, you won't? Footnotes, motherfucker? So that page, and I think I will, I'll bring it up in the post edit. I'll bring it up and show a screenshot of it. So the page is this long. This is my argument. These are the footnotes. I let him have it.
Did he like it?
Yeah, Romine loved it. Rifkin was like, okay, now I believe you. I had every single page of my thesis, every literal page of my thesis had a footnote. I made sure of it. Like, you want to, okay, fine.
So was he asking for secondary sources for your proof?
They just, what he wanted to see was more evidence, visually see more evidence that I had done the research. Like,
I thought all the quotes were proof.
That's supposed to be it. You give a few quotes from your primary sources, a secondary quote or two to show how the primary sources are working in your argument, and then you move on. Now I gotta add footnotes? Are you kidding me? So yeah, that one page, it was just footnote after footnote. I found as many articles as I could that made the argument about Quentin committing suicide because of Caddy. Dude, I found so many. And I just popped them in. I didn't even read them. Didn't need to. Doesn't matter. And that's the problem I've always had with peer-reviewed journals. How many of the sources they're quoting did they fucking read? Because they could have done the same thing I did, just thrown in a bunch of footnotes to show that I did the research.
Oh, and with Chicago, it's worse because Chicago, you can just throw in footnotes to things you looked at, didn't actually use in your paper.
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing. The footnotes on that one page, not a single one of them, I didn't get any quotes out of those sources. If you actually read the chapter, I pulled from like 2 of them about Caddy, influencing his suicide. But that's not my focus. My focus was, why was it done in Cambridge and not Jefferson?
Yep.
And the reality is that while, yes, you can see a clear argument towards Caddy, if you look at it from a regionalist standpoint, it has nothing to do with Caddy. It has everything to do with the fact that when the Julio character says, I got the paper, that's the last dialogue you see before Quentin kills himself. And you don't even see him kill himself. He does it off stage, which means he didn't exist to begin with. And he realizes that he is a fiction. Because he doesn't have the paper.
So...
But it irritated me to death.
Yeah.
Because he sunk his teeth into that one sentence and told me that he didn't believe I did the research. Prove it. And I did. For what purpose?
So you can conform to the system. I mean, that's what this is. It's about conformity.
It's about the echo chamber.
Yeah.
You have to pay homage to the echo chamber.
There's no room for anything outside of it anymore.
Mm-mm.
So there's no more disagreement. That's the big problem. And I'm hoping that the universe takes a turn towards something better.
Yeah.
Because what they've done at this point is throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is just as bad as, in the early to mid 20th century when they refused to let women into the canon because they were women. I mean, what's the difference? Tell me the difference between the two. Because you're still locking people out.
Yeah.
As much as I admire the new criticism, they became an echo chamber too, and they had to be corrected. We're there now.
Every movement eventually becomes an echo chamber.
And that's where we are.
Because the philosophy becomes law.
Yes. And we're there now.
We're there.
And something else has got to take its place. I don't see why we can't return to certain ideas of interpretation.
I don't see why we can't go back to reader response. I mean, honestly, that makes the most sense in the internet environment. Reader response makes the most sense. And I'm not holding up Stanley Fish as like a god, but
he's right.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
it works with the internet.
It does. It does. Also, another branch of reader response is reception theory. How is the writer received at this particular time? Mm-hmm. How was he read at this particular time?
Yeah.
That's responsible criticism. Stanley Fish, for all his faults, is basically a new critic.
Yeah.
Because he's all text focused.
Yeah.
So is Derrida. And again, who's been thrown out? Derrida. He's no longer useful anymore.
Yeah.
Because he's so text focused. Okay.
So that's peer review.
That's a wrap.
Join us next week. Same bad time, same bad channel. Real quick, there is, I did not do a Beta Files podcast last week, and there will not be one this week. Taking a couple weeks off from it, just kind of gather everything together. There will be an update on what's happening in January with Substack and all that good stuff coming to you in a short file. So, and that's it. All right. For Dr. J, I am the barber. Peace.
Now it's time for Dr. J.